after him at full Wow, wow, wow. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Pura vida, mi gente. Much love and respect. I appreciate you guys taking the time to tune in your Shabbat, and your Saturday afternoon. Thanks for doing that. So, real quick, before we start, hold on, guys. All right. Pura vida, mi gente. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the last one in the sports, Ancient Sports of America series. There's actually a lot of games and sports. We can go do so many episodes of this one. So, but have some more information on this just in case people think it's just some tribes. There's actually a lot of different tribes that actually practice different types of ball games. All right. So, but thanks for tuning in. Just wanted to say hi here from the Nebuchadnezzar, looking at the Matrix. All right, in the Matrix. Just don't mention the Chazars. Yeah. All right, hold on, guys. Let me share here what we got here. All right. So if you're new to the channel, remember I got playlists for many of the videos. I mentioned it in the last video, and people are still asking me where can I find the playlist and the other parts. So just go to my homepage. There's a tab. You know, anybody's homepage on YouTube. When you go to their homepage, there's different tabs. Click on the one that says playlist, and you'll find all the other playlists. I just found out, guys, that don't mention the Chazars. Playlist was private for some reason. Somebody had put it private. I'm not gonna say who Chazars, but I made it public again. Don't worry. All right, all right. So yeah, don't moderators when somebody says something dumb like that, just hide them. Just get them out. You know, we're not here for childish stuff like that. So again, this is the playlist Ancient Sports of America. Right here I'm showing part four. Really good playlist. Definitely make sure to check out all the parts. All right. Part four, five, we delve into a book we're gonna read today again, which is Games of the North American Indians. This part right here, part four, is saying that when the ball is thrown some distance on each side, the party standing near the instantly pick it up. All right, they pick it up. What they do with the ball? And run at full speed with three or four after him at full speed. All right, so somebody picks up the ball and he's like running, and he got what? Three or four people chasing him, right? Three or four. After him, at full speed, the others send their shouts of encouragement to their own party. Ha ha, ya, ha ya, hey ya, ha ha ya, ha ha ya, ha ha ya, aneguk. And these shouts are heard even from the distant lodges, for children and all are deeply interested in the exciting scene. The spoils are not all on which their interest is fixed, but is directed to the falling and rolling of the crowds over and under each other. The loud and merry shouts of the spectators who crowd the doors of the wigwams go forth in one continued peal and testify to their happy state of feeling. All right, so that's actually a pretty good video. Go over a lot of information, especially when it comes to lacrosse. That was one of the main sports, but there was different types of lacrosse. They played types like of lacrosse that was almost like football, where they were tackling and everything, and kill the man with the ball, and they're trying to go to the other end. And once they cross a certain line, they score, just like football. So, yes, lacrosse with the little six too, but they also had the handball and football. They call it soccer, right? Soccer. We're going to read that again today a little bit. So, make sure to check out all the parts if you haven't. We did part 6 recently. So, make sure to check that out to continue the series. Shout out to the Ohio player. Shout out to the fam right here for sharing this and mentioning me uh, on the post and about American Indian origins of American football, right? We already know who made rubber balls, who created ball games, all that, right? So it's talking about in the 1790s, a man named John Burnett witnessed a game, all right, about the Lenni Lenape. So we're gonna see actually because I see the source for this, which is Complementary Power, Men and Women of the Lenni Lenape. Caffrey Margaret M., American Indian Quarterly, Lincoln, Volume 24. So I did go to that, and then I realized that they're using another source. All right, and the original source is this one, Notes on the Early Settlements of the Northwestern Territory. And the name is Jacob Burnett, not John Burnett, Jacob Burnett. All right, this is from 1847, but he wrote that again in the 1790s. All right, so we're gonna read this a little bit real quick. All right. So shout out to either way, shout out to Ohio player. Thanks for the share. All right. And you know me, I like to go right to the origin of who said it first. Who said it first? Does it really say Lenny Lenape? That's another thing. All right. So what we're really talking about says here Notes on the Early Settlements of the Northwestern Territory by Jacob Burnett, 1847. And we go over to, let me see, this is about page 67, 68. Let me see. Let's go to 68. And it says here, let me close up actually. On one of the journeys of the court and bar to Detroit, all right? See what, I just want you to see the area they're talking about, right? They arrived at the Ottawa town on the Auglaize about the middle of the day and accepted an invitation to remain there till the next morning. Blue Jacket, the Shawnee chief who commanded in the battle of the 20th of August, 1794, resided at that village, but was then absent. The party, however, were received very kindly by the venerable old Delaware chief, Bukong Gehelas, whose name has been given to a fine milled stream in Logan County. All right, so once again, what tribe is he from? Delaware, which is, yeah, the Lenape are coming out of the Delaware, but that is their name, Delaware. And in this original source, it doesn't say Lenny Lenape. All right, just want to point that out. Whose name has been given to a fine mill stream in Logan County. He was one of the chiefs who negotiated the Treaty of the Mouth of the Big Miami with General George R. Clark in 1786, in which his name is written Bohong Gelas. In the course of the afternoon, he got up a game of football. A game of football. This is the who? The Delaware chief. And where are they again? You guys been following? When they were going towards Detroit, they arrived at Ottawa town. All right, this is the area they're in, and the Delaware chief was there, and he said, "Hey, quick game, football, for the amusement of his guests, in the true Aboriginal style, in the true Aboriginal style, not European style." He selected two young men to get a purse of trinkets made up to be the reward of the successful party. That matter was soon accomplished, and the whole village, male and female in their best attire, were on the lawn, which was beautiful, a beautiful plain of 4 or 5 acres, in the center of the village, thickly set in blue grass. At each of the opposite extremes of this lawn, two stakes were set up about 6 feet apart. All right, we got a field. It's game time. The men played against the women, and to countervail the superiority of their strength, it was a rule of the game that they were not to touch the ball with their hands on the penalty of forfeiting the purse, while the females had the privilege of using their hands as well as their feet. So again, guys, the females, they're able to carry it with their hands, just like in football. The men had to do their feet. So I was actually picturing this. I was like, that's interesting to try that out, man. A couple guys, a couple of my friends play against some females, and they can use their hands. It actually is pretty hard. It's actually pretty hard when the other person can use their hands. It's not the same. So it's pretty interesting. All right, so they're able to carry with their hands, while the females had the privilege of using their hands again, as well as their feet. They were allowed to pick up the ball and run, pick up the ball and run, and throw it as far as their strength and activity would permit, and throw, just like a quarterback. So they'd see one of their teammates open near the goal, they would throw it, just like you see the concept in rugby, right? When they're carrying it and passing it to the side and passing, trying to get to the goal. Same concept. But picture, they can throw it anywhere they want, as far as they could throw it. So imagine they probably had already the best thrower in the team. She was always sought for. She became the quarterback, right? She was like, oh, give it to her, give it to her, and then run. And you got somebody that's the fastest and the best at catching. So you got your wide receivers. it's this is the this is what I'm trying to show you, right? So you can imagine these are different type of women. Like it's not these women in these times did a lot. All right, they weren't just they were tough too, and they were probably really good at this. They were probably really skillful. And imagine they had to play against men, so they had to be. And the men ain't just gonna be aboard and have an easy game. So that's why. So it must have been competition. So I'm just for you to picture it, right? So again, they're able to pick up the ball, run, and throw it as far as the strength and activity would permit. When a squad succeeded in getting the ball, the men were allowed to seize, whirl her around, and if necessary, throw her on the grass for the purpose of disengaging the ball. That's a tackle. All right, that's a tackle. That's a tackle. All right. They were allowed to what? Whirl her around, and if necessary, throw her on the grass, get her down, tackle her on the purpose of disengaging the ball. Maybe they can cause a fumble, taking care not to touch it except with their feet. All right, or a sack. There you go. But imagine, so they're doing the tackling, and then they can't even grab it. They got to start playing with their feet. So I'm like, wow, that's interesting. The contending parties arranged themselves in the center of the lawn, the men on one side and the women on the other, each party facing the goal of their opponents. The side which succeeded in driving the ball through the stakes at the goal of their adversaries were proclaimed victors and received the purse to be divided among them. All things being ready, the old chief came on the lawn, and saying something in the Indian language not understood by his guests, threw up the ball between the lines of the combatants and retired. When the contest began, the parties were pretty fairly matched as to numbers, having about 100 on a side, and for a long time the game appeared to be doubtful. The young squaws were the most active of their party and most frequently caught the ball, when it was amusing to see the struggle between them and the young men, which generally terminated in the prostration of the squaw upon the grass. before the ball could be forced from her hand. They're saying usually ended up with them getting tackled. Of course, men, of course, they're gonna try to do that. But hey, Ambush Predator, thank you very much for the donation. Appreciate it. All the way from St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Shout out to everybody up there and all the Canadian supporters. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so pretty interesting. You see, they're playing all these games. The contest continued about an hour with great animation and various prospects of success, but was finally decided in favor of the fair sex by the Herculean strength of the mammoth squaw, who got the ball and held it in spite of the efforts of the men to shake it from the grasp of her uplifted hand. Still, she approached the goal, near enough to throw it through the stakes. All right, so she threw it to the stakes after she got near. So they're saying the women beat the men. All right. When he witnessed that game, the women won. Just so you know. When the contending parties had retired from the strife, it was pleasant to see the exultation expressed in the faces of the victors, whose joy was manifestly increased by the circumstance that the victory was won in the presence of white men or Europeans, whom they supposed to be highly distinguished and honored in their nation, a conclusion very natural for them to draw, as they knew the business on which their guests were journeying to Detroit. The party spent the night very pleasantly in the village, and in the morning resumed the journey. All right, so this is where they are. It says here on the outward trip, they took a route by Dayton, Piqua, Loramie, St. Mary's, and the Ottawa town. So you guys know that area. That's where they're talking about. And again, they said Delaware. All right, just wanted to show you how when you go to the original sources, you kind of get more clear. And want to continue real quick. I'm gonna read from this book. I just wanted to show you an original form of it. It's the principal navigations, voyages, traffics, and discoveries of the English nation, made by sea or overland to the remote and farthest distant quarters of the earth at any time within the compasses of these 1600 years, divided into three several volumes. All right, so this is from Richard Haliouk in the Haliouk collections. He had a lot of Haliouk, I believe. Um, if I'm not mistaken, had something to do with the Sephardi's and the Huguenots. If I remember correctly. Yeah, so future video, if not. I think I have mentioned it in one of my old videos. Hey, Willie, appreciate it. Thank you, man. And yeah, so this book 50 this is a version of this is the way that it's written, this old form where you can't even look for words, it won't recognize it. So I found like a newer version, still from the same years. All right, same book, just a more modern version, and it's interesting what we found here, and I'm just gonna read it to you. Let me see. They're talking about when they arrived, I believe. Let me see. The merchant. Uh, our men play at football with the savages. All right, so let me go to this one. It says here the 21st of August, the master sent a boat on shore for wood with 6 of his men, and there were 130 of the people of the country which went on shore to them. They went about to kill them as we thought, for they shot their darts towards them, and we that were aboard the ship did see them go on shore to our men. Whereupon the master sent the pinnace after them. Pinnace, that could be maybe a dog. And when they saw the pinnace coming towards them, they turned back, and the master of the pinnace did shoot off a caliber to them the same time, but hurt none of them, for his meaning was only to put them in fear. Diverse times they did wave us on shore to play with them at the football. So even though they're trying to kill them and everything, they're trying to get them to come play a game of football. And the funny thing is it sounds weird, but I thinking about it, that was a lot of the way that was a lot of the times that was the way they solved disputes through the game. So maybe they thought they could see if these guys had any game. You know, That's how you show your warriors, man. Because you end up beating them up, right? I think that's what they really wanted to do was get them in the game so they can mess them up. You know, tackle here, a tackle there, a kick here. Give me that ball. Boom. Oh yeah, you thought you can come to our land? So maybe I don't know, but it's kind of weird that they wrote this, right? So this is diverse time. They did wave us on shore to play with them at the football, and some of our company went on shore to play with them, and our men did cast them down as soon as they did come to strike the ball. And thus much of that which we did see and do in that Harborough where we arrived first. So I don't think that means that they pretended to go play with them, and then as soon as they came to play, they cast them down, they killed them. Hmm. Okay, but that's funny because that's in the this is in 1586. That was gonna be the first scrimmage, the first match between Indians and Europeans, supposedly. They didn't even get a chance to. They just killed them. They said we won. We ain't playing. Oh man, so bad. It says here in the book the history of travels into Virginia, or British or Britannia. So Britain, Virginia, or Britain occupied Virginia, right? Expressing the cosmographic and commodities. This is by William Strachey and Richard Henry Mayer, 1849. And it says here, page, let me go zoom in a little bit. So they were talking about actually, yeah, remember. So they were talking about the different exercises they did, and one of them was hunting and all that. Then it says a kind of exercise they had, they have often amongst them, much like that which boys call bandy in English. All right, the sport they're saying is in the game of bandy ball, the ball was struck with a bat called bandy from it being bent. All right, so much boys call band in English, and maybe an ancient game, as yet seemeth in Virgil or Virginia, for whence Aeneas came into it, or Virgil, yeah, it does say Virgil. For when Aeneas came into Italy at his marriage with Lavinia, King Latinus' daughter, yet it is said that Trojans taught the Latins skipping the frisking at the ball. The Trojans? Who's the Trojans, guys? Let's see who remembers. Who was Troy founded by? Troy was founded by Judah, a line of Judah. Who's the Trojans? So they were teaching the Latins are the indigenous or aboriginal people of that area of Italy called Latins. They taught them how what? Skipping and frisking at the ball. Likewise, they have the exercise of football, in which they only forcibly encounter with the foot to carry the ball, the one from the other, and spurn yet to the goal with a kind of dexterity and swift footmanship. Again, swift footmanship, just like Pele and Messi. Swift footmanship, which is the honor of Jet, but they never strike up one another's heels, and they don't even kick each other, as we do. Not a company that praiseworthy to purchase a goal for such an advantage. All right, so hey, again, here we go. Again, so if they played with women or they wanted to make it a little harder, they play with hands. But also, we know many. We've read this. We read this in the previous part that it depended. They sometimes played with their hands too, like we were just reading earlier. All right. All right. We're gonna read this book. It says Wood's New England's Prospects from uh well, he's from the 1600s. This is an 1865 version of it. All right, retold. This is written though primary source from the 1600s. They're rewriting. And let me see if we can I think this is in New England. Yeah, this is in New England. Of course, it says New England. So, yeah, let's see what it says here. Oh, what? Oh, come on. Playing me. There we go. So it says, and whereas it is the custom of many people in their games, if they see the dice run cross of their cards not answer their expectations, what cursing and swearing, what imprecations and railings, fightings and stabbings oftentimes proceed from their heavy spleen. You guys hear that? You hear what's going on? How do their blustering passions make the place troublesome to themselves and others? But I have known when four of their milder spirits have sit down, staking their treasures, when they have played 4 and 20 hours, neither eating, drinking, or sleeping in the interim, nay, which is most to be wondered at, not quarreling. But as they came thither in peace, so they depart in peace. When he that had lost all his wampum, wampum fish, his house, his kettle, his beaver, his hatchet, his knife, yeah, all his little all, having nothing left but his naked self. So they're talking about what we read in the last part. They wagered a lot of bets during games, all right? A lot of bets during games. And people were losing their estates, their houses, their wigwams, all that, all right? Their fields, their crops, probably, all right? So in sports, of activity at football, though they played never so fiercely to outward appearance, yet anger, boiling blood never streams in their cooler veins. If any man be thrown, he laughs out of his foil, all right? If any man be thrown, right? They're playing football. And if he be thrown, he laughs it out, his foil. There is no seeking of revenge. He ain't trying to get mad. It ain't personal, it's just sports. No quarreling, no bloody noses, scratches, faces, black eyes, broken shins, no bruised members or crushed ribs. The, the lamentable effects of rage, but the goal being won, the good on the one side lost, friend they were at the football, and friends they must meet at the kettle. I never heard yet of that Indian that was his neighbor, homicide or vexation by his male part, fussy or uncivil, tongue, laughter in them is not common, seldom exceeding a smile, never breaking out into such a loud laughter, as do many of our English. Of all things they love not to be lot at upon any occasion. If a man be in trade with them, and the bargain be almost struck, if they perceive you laugh, they will scarce proceeds. All right, they don't like you. Hey, don't laugh. Don't be laughing at the Indians. You hear that? But I wanted to read that. See, so many accounts. It actually, there's actually a lot of accounts. All right, this was way before Europeans brought any of that. They were already doing it all over the place. You know. Real quick, this is the book Relation of Virginia, a boy's memoir of life with the Powhatans and Patawomecs, Henry Spellman. So what happened is he was indentured to the Indians. This is a future video we'll probably get into his story, but what he's saying, he witnessed a game, I believe, and while he was with them, he witnessed their pastimes. Right? Let's see if I can zoom in. I can't zoom in, but down here it says the pastimes. When they meet at feast or otherwise, they use sports, much like 2 hours here in England, just like the ones in England, as they're dancing, which is like our Derbyshire hornpipe, a man first and then a woman, and so throw them all, hanging all in a round. There is one which stand in the midst with a pipe and a rattle with which, when he begins to make a noise, all the rest giggets about wringing their necks and stamping on the ground. They use beside football play, which women and young boys do much play at, the men never. They make their goals as ours, only they never fight nor pull one another down. The men play with the little ball, letting it fall out of their hand and strike it with the top of his foot. And he that can strike the ball furthest wins that they play for. All right. Wow. Yeah. Do you remember all these sports? Yeah. We're in the book Games of the North American Indians by Stuart Cullen or Cullen. And yeah, very good book. We're actually read a lot of this book in parts 4 and 5. So make sure to check that out. Let me just get to a part right here. So we read this before. I just want to read this again real quick. So it says ball. Under the general name of ball, I have classed all ball games, howsoever played, and all games in which an implement analogous to a ball is employed. In none of them, with trifling exceptions which belong to distinct classes, is the ball ever touched with the hand, to do so being strictly forbidden by the rules of the game. So that's except in certain cases, right? So it says the Indian ball games may be classified as follows. First, racket, in which the ball is tossed with a racket. Second, shiny, in which the ball is struck with a club or bat, just like hockey. And third, double ball, a game chiefly confined to women, played with two balls or billets tied together, tossed with a stick. Fourth, the ball race, in which the ball or stick is kicked. In addition, subsidiary to the preceding and not general, being confined to a few tribes, we have fifth, football. Sixth, hand and football, handball, or carrying the ball, right? Hand carrying the ball in football. Seventh, toss ball. Eighth, juggling. And ninth, hot ball. All right, hot potato, hot potato, hot ball. So we actually read a lot of this, most of that. So we're gonna go to a specific part. All right, right here it's talking about the so-called Cherokee. It says it's a very exciting game as well as very rough one, very rough game, and in its general features is a combination of baseball, football, and the old-fashioned shinny. Almost everything short of murder is allowable in the game, and both parties sometimes go into the contest with the deliberate purpose of crippling or otherwise disabling the best players on the opposite side. Serious accidents are common. All right, I think we read that last time. Hey, Ambush Prayer, thank you. Appreciate it again. Appreciate you. Glad you like it. And yeah, again, so very rough. So that's why I was saying maybe they wanted to play against the Europeans so they can rough them up, break some limbs, show them what some warriors are. Because they had their guns, right? They were probably trying to get them to not use their guns, which they probably ended up using anyways, right? The Thompson Indians, British Columbia, they were fond of games like their neighbors and utilized the level grassy river benches for various games of ball. One of these games, Sukulilaka, was not unlike our own game of football. The players were divided, as with us, into two groups, and in each end the field was a goal formed by two poles planted several feet asunder. They play commenced from the middle of the field, and the object was to get the ball through the goal of their adversaries. The ball was made from some kind of tree fungus cut round and covered the elk hide. All right. So again, many references. The Eskimos, they had a form of football game as well. All right. So I gotta get there's actually a whole chapter on this. Hold up. So the over here, the Shinny Omaha, the Omaha playing football. The Pawnee. The third player take up the game if the second couple become involved in the wrestling match. So they're talking about how rough these things are. The side which succeeded in getting the balls to the stake wins. As the game is described as played in former times, it probably rivaled modern football in roughness. Okay? Very rough game, I'm telling you. So in Arizona, they're doing a form of football. So all over the place. So in Sacramento. So this one was more of a foot race. So their football game was more of a properly a foot race. So literally football using the foot racing. That one was a bit different. Okay, hold on, guys. We're gonna get to a good part. Hold on. So the Pima have a football game with the ball. Sonjikjo is made of gum of the greasewood and sand. in Idaho, Shoshone. Come on, where's that part we're looking for? There we go. Uh, says footballs diameter 4 inches. So here's some original balls right here. Just so you guys can see. We've actually gone over some of this, I believe, in the previous parts. I think we have. All right. Oh, there we go. So it says here, football. Sorry. I'll go back. Says here, information concerning the game of football is extremely meager and unsatisfactory. The specimens commonly designated as footballs by collectors are, as a matter of fact, intended mostly for the game of hand and football. Hand and football. Or the ball race. Football is mentioned as occurring among the four Algonquin tribes: Massachusetts, Micmac, Narragansett, and Powhatan. Shout out to Air Shad, who's in the building. That's his people right there. It is spoken of also among Wyandot, the Catawba. Shout out to the Catawba brothers, Anu, and all the Catawbanagi, Opemiha, Kiowa. Shout out to all the Catawba brothers out there, Saponis. In which concerning the Eskimo, Chukchansi, Toping Gugim, the Akomawi, the Nishinam, Shokomish, the Mono, the Paiweti, and Washo. The game was played by men, Micmac, Paiweti, by men and women, opposed Topina Gugim, and by men, women, and children, Eskimo. The balls were of buckskin, Micmac, Eskimo, Toping Gugim, Achumawi, Nishinam, Mono, the Paiweti, or of stone. And so the parentheses are all these tribes that played it. And the goals were two sticks erect, just like modern goals, right? Or placed slantingly, or lines drawn at the ends of the course, like lines, the goal line, all right? In California game, the ball is kicked by successive players who are lined up along the course, corresponding with a game in which the ball is similarly tossed along the course with curved or spoon-shaped sticks. In one game, men and women are opposed, the men kicking the ball and the women tossing it with flail-shaped baskets. The game appears to be most popular among the Eskimo, with whom in one instance it is complicated by the ball being whipped as well as kicked. Massachusetts. William Wood wrote, for their sportive activity they have commonly but three or four as football, shooting, running, and swimming. When they play county against county, there are rich goals, all be hung with wampum-pinch, mo wakis, beaver skins, and black otter skins. It would exceed the belief of many to relate the worth of one goal, wherefore it shall be nameless. Their goals be a mile long, placed on the sands, which are even as a board. Their ball is no bigger than a handball, which sometimes they mount in the air with their naked feet. Sometimes it is swayed by the multitude. Sometimes also it is 2 days before they get a goal. Then they mark the ground. They win and begin their next day. Before they come to this sport, they paint themselves, even as when they go to war, in policy to prevent mischief, because no man should know him that moved his patience or accidentally hurt his person, taking away the occasion of study and revenge. So they try to make them unrecognizable so they don't go seek them after the game. Before they begin, their arms be disordered and hung upon some neighboring tree, after which they make a long scroll on the sand, over which they shake loving hands and with laughing hearts scuffle for victory. While the men play, the boys pipe and the women dance and sing trophies of their husbands' conquests. All being done, a feast summons their departure. It is most delightful to see them play in smaller companies, when men may view their swift footmanship, their curious tossings of their ball, their flouncing into the water, their lubber-like wrestling, having no cunning at all in that kind, one English being able to beat 10 Indians at football. Oh yeah, right. Look at him boosting, talking about one Englishman can beat him. I want to see that. Yeah, I want to see that. Micmac, Nova Scotia says Mr. Stransbury Hagar, Abraham's wife, says the only other Micmac game than the bowl game of which I have learned is Twadijik or football. The goals were of two sticks placed slantingly across each other like the poles of the traditional wigwam. About a score of players divided into two parties faced each other at equal distances from the center of the field. The ball was then rolled in by the umpire, and the object of the game was to kick it between the goal posts. In more recent times, a player may catch his opponent by the neck and thus hold him back until he can obtain the ball himself. But scalping was anciently employed as a means of disposing of an opponent. Man, the Narragansett, Rhode Island. Roger Williams gives Pasuquaco wow, oh wow. I might have killed that air shad, my fault, man. But this is what you were talking about earlier. All right. It says they meet to football and says they have great meetings of football playing only in summer, town against town, upon some broad sandy shore, free from stones or upon some soft heady plot, because of their naked feet, at which they have great stakings, but seldom quarrel. All right, they getting down with football. Narragansett, that's what's up. The Powhatan in Virginia, William Strachey says, we actually read these. Likewise, they have the exercise of football, in which they only forcibly encounter with the foot to carry the ball, the one from the other, and spurn it to the goal with a kind of dexterity and swift footmanship, which is the honor of it. But they never strike up one another's heel, as we do, not a compton that praiseworthy to purchase a goal by such an advantage. In his vocabulary, he gives a ball aito. The Eskimo style, okay, it says here, buckskin covered balls, one nearly spherical. They're talking about the balls here. It says collected by Mr. Lucian M. Turner, who describes them as footballs. He says footballs call out everybody, from the aged and bent mother of a numerous family to the toddling youngster, scarcely able to do more than waddle under the burden of his heavy deerskin clothes. Eskimo Coke Swat Meal. Says buckskin ball they have as well. And this is a diagram, I guess. So it says figure 918 represents the football and the whip for driving it. So different forms. Again, they still tackle each other. They're still playing similar like football, like modern football, like a lot of things. And again, that's just one form. They have the handball. So a lot of the Eskimo, hey, in the ice, hey, nothing else to do. You got to keep warm. You got to play. So as football, the ball used in this game is made of leather, stuffed with deer hair or moss, and varies in size, but rarely exceeds 5 to 6 inches in diameter. The game is played by young men and children. The usual season for it is at the end of winter or in spring. I saw it played in various places from Bering Strait to the mouth of Kushogwin at Cape Darby. It was played by children on the hard drifted snow. It is also a popular game on the lower Yukon. All right, so very popular up there everywhere. Another football game is begun by the men standing in two close parallel lines midway between the goals, their legs and bodies forming two walls. The ball is then thrown between them and driven back and forth by kicks and blows until it passes through one of the lines. That's interesting right there. That sounds like fun. As soon as this occurs, all rush to the drive. I know I'll take mad people out on that game. I'll be good in this one. You guys can't see me on this one right here. The Northern Lights, Aurora. All right, they're playing games under the Northern Lights. Yeah. The Wyandotte in Kansas, says Mr. William E. Connolly, writes the author as follows. They played a game of ball which they say was much like our modern football, but I never could get enough information about it to warrant me in describing it as in any way different from the well known game of Indian ball. Indian ball, just like modern football. Indian ball. Mariposa Stog says Chuck Chauncey, Table Mountain, Fresno County, California, describes the following game under the name of I. All right, so now they're showing us the setup. two or more men play on one side. Oh, it's stone ball. All right, so now they're using stones right here. So again, different types of games that the American Indians had. You can go hours and hours talking about the different games they had and invented and just to pass the times, wager, settle disputes, all that. So here they're talking about the Mokelumnan stock and their balls. So describe them as footballs, buckskin covered balls. He also describes the following game under the name of Pushta football. The ball is an oblate spheroid, 13 inches long by 8 inches, and its shorter diameter, and consists of buckskin filled with deer hair. A straight level course of about 500 yards is laid out, at one end of which the two balls are placed about 12 feet apart. The two opposing starters, Pachupes, stand about 50 feet behind their respective balls, and at the signal, Wisites, the two opponents rush forward and kick their balls to their respective partners stationed next to them on the course, also running after the ball to assist. If necessary, no interference or handling of the ball is allowed. The penalty is usually the confiscation of the stakes. The number of players regulates the length of the course, often 50 play. Dr. J.W. Hudson describes also the following ball game, played between men and women, under the name of Umta. The ball, pushki, consists of an oblate spheroid 4 to 7 inches in diameter, right? Spheroid, guys, come on. Spheroid, covered with buckskin and studded with deer hair. The goals are two sets of posts, 3 feet apart and 8 feet high, bent at the top to form an arch, and 600 yards apart. The men are stationed in a line on one side and the women on the other. The starters, 5 men and 5 women, arranged alternately, stand in a line in the center of the field at right angles to the goal course. At a word, a man casts down the ball, and each side tries to secure it. The women must advance the ball with their hands or with a handled basket, a mata, while the men can kick only and must not throw or touch the ball with their hands, nor can they interfere with their hands. The women are very expert and throw the ball long distances. So the women were the quarterbacks. The women were like the ones really playing more like a carrying the ball, like modern football type games in most cases. But I'm sure the men play that. We actually read in times where they have played versions of their own handball amongst men. We might actually read that coming up. So it says Pujunan stock, Nishinam, Pisco. So again, Dr. J.W. Hudson describes Pasco football. The ball Pasco is oblong 12 inches and longest diameter, covered with buckskin and stuffed with deer hair. There are 8 players to a side. 1 ball is used. The goal consists of pairs of posts 3 feet apart at the ends of a 1,000-foot course. Rough play is the rule. You got to be rough. As a player is allowed to run with the ball in his hands, boom, an interference is permissible. There you go. Like I said, it's not always just the man playing with their feet. All right? Again, rough play is the rule, guys. Just like in modern football, rugby as well, as a player is allowed to run with the ball in his hands. Case closed. They're playing like modern football. What is the goal? They have to go to the other end, reach the goal line. 1,000-foot course, 1,000-foot course. Man, loving this. All this stuff they didn't teach us growing up. Imagine if we knew this stuff growing up. Skokomish, British Columbia. So again, this was in California, actually. I didn't mention that. So that was the Nishinam, the Mokelumne River in Placerville, California. All right? They're playing a real form. Yeah, they claim they don't know the origins of gridiron football, but yeah, rough play is the rule in this case right here. So the Shokomish, British Columbia, they play. Mr. Charles Hilltop refers to kind of football under the name of tequila. Tequila. I'll tequila you. Tequila. I'll tequila you. Tequila. Yeah. Hey, much love, James, big bro. Appreciate it always, brother. Thank you. Make sure to check out James' channel. Got a lot to say. Hey, appreciate all the moderators in the house, all the real followers, and everybody who's new. Thank you for taking the time to consider hearing me out and checking out my videos. I appreciate you guys as well. And I hope you're here for the long run, and I hope you can catch up on all the stuff we've unveiled and shown and studied together. It's been a long journey. Yeah. Hey, MFLA, yeah, all make they were ball players. That was my theory, and even that's what most archaeologists are letting us know. We actually got that on part 3 or 2 of this series. So make sure to catch that video where we're showing you these were ball players. The helmets they're wearing is for the ball games. Yeah, the Olmec Stoneheads, they're ball players. But that's what I was saying. When it depended on life and death or to settle disputes, your whole kingdom, you know, ma- people avoided, mass murder being avoided, right? Because of war. Instead, you play a game. Their ball players are real heroes, real like superheroes. Imagine, like I said, like a Barry Sanders back then, a LeBron, and Michael Jordan. Like real heroes, life or death. You better win, man. We want to keep our crops, man. You better win. So again, we go on. It says that Acho Maui, California. They had a form of football as well, as you guys can see there. The Mono, Hooker Cove, Madera County, California. Ball covered with buskin filled with hair, 4.5 inches in diameter. Collected by Dr. J.W. Hudson, who describes it as used in a football game called Tanasuk Witokoin. 2 balls are laid on the starting line, Anawi, Anuawe, 20 feet apart, and at a signal, each captain kicks his ball to his partners, who forward it to the goal, Ananakoaina, a hole between the pair of stakes, 350 yards distant. No interference whatever is permitted. Another football game with the same name, Tanasu Witokoin, is played with 1 ball, 7 inches in diameter, which is dropped in the center of the field and kicked or carried in almost the same manner as modern football. The goals are pairs of upright posts, 5 feet between and 400 yards apart. The Paiwete in Pyramid Lake, Nevada. Pyramid Lake. Come on now. Free Museum of Science, they have what? A buskin covered ball. They used it for a game called Woodsimo and used in a football game by men, say 4 on a side. The object is to kick the ball between the 2 goals. Between the 2 goals, kick the ball between the 2 goals, to be made of willow sticks and some 8 or 10 feet high. The goals are about 50 yards apart. The players starting in the center, they wear only a loincloth. All right. The Suin stock. All right. Again, shout out to all the Catawba brothers out there. Shout out to Anu. Make sure to check the news channel as well. All the prepper stuff. It says here the Catawba, South Carolina. Mrs. R.E. Dunlap of Leslie York County, South Carolina, writes the author that the Catawba formerly played a game of football, which they called Wachipu. All right, Wachipu. Says here football diameter 3 inches. Pahsaheman Indians, Nevada. It says the Washoan stock. Washoe, the Washoe, Carson Valley in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Dr. J.W. Hudson describes this tribe using a football, kamal, 6 inches in diameter, filled with the inner bark of the sagebrush. The goal's matap consists of 2 sets of posts, 10 feet high and about 4 feet apart, at either end of the field, which is about 300 feet long. The game is like our football. There are 3 players to a side, and the ball is cast up in the center of the field by a captain. The game is called palayapa. Hand in football. I have classified under the name of hand in football a woman's game played with a large ball, which is struck down with the hand and kicked back with the foot. The ball is covered either with buckskin, Cheyenne Eskimo mandan, or with bladder netted with sinew, the gross ventries and the crows. It is commonly played by one woman at a time, but among the Eskimo 2 or 4 play. The Cheyenne count the game with sticks, and their ball has a thong attached. The game has been found among 2 Algonquin tribes, the Cheyenne, the Gros Ventres, among the Eskimo, among 4 Siouan tribes, the Assiniboine, the Crows, the Mandan, the Winnebago. Included in this division is a ball with a thong from the Arapaho, which is struck only with the hand. The Algonquin song says Arapaho, Wind River Reservation, Wyoming, Free Museum of Science and Art, University, buckskin ball with medium seam, 12.5 inches in diameter, one face marked with a cross and colored quilt work attached to a thong, 19 inches in length. All right, little diagram. So that was interesting. They probably used to whip it around with that. The end of the thong is held in the hand and the ball is thrown up and caught. Collected by the writer, 1900. The name is Kowa. It is used in the girls' game. And it says here the Cheyenne Reservation in Montana. Kicking football. Covered with buckskin, irregularly elliptical, an elliptical football, kicking an elliptical ball. All right, just like modern football, with two faces consisting of disc of buckskin sewed to a middle band. To a middle band, you guys see where they got the concept? Where they get the see? The thing is, they added their pig, they added their hijack. Talking about pigskin, they wanted you to touch pig, so they added their hijack. Where do you see? Where do you see any of these people using pig? Uh huh. Shabbat Shalom. Yeah, we try to keep it pure, you know. Consisting of disc of buckskin sewed to a metal band, 2 inches wide and painted red, to which is attached a buckskin thong, 24 inches in length, diameter 9.5 inches. Collected by Mr. S.C. Sims in 1901. The thong is held in the hand of the ball, kicked repeatedly. It is used in a woman's game. Says these were collected, so more balls, right? A lot of these, they're talking about what they have in their museums, right? But yet they failed to teach us this stuff in school, right? All this stuff in the museum, all these different ball games they knew was just like football, was just like basketball, just like baseball, lacrosse, hockey, tennis, racket. You know, they still didn't let us know. They wanted us to think all this was made somewhere else. When you search the history of sports, you'll see they never mention America. They barely mention America. And when they do, they say, well, they adopted that from the Europeans that came. Yeah. Yeah, breaking the spells for sure. Crazy year, huh? We started out in a crazy year, huh? Well, we already knew. We already know. We're gonna still keep learning though. We're gonna keep reading. We're gonna keep learning. Even with all the distractions, even everything that's going on, we're gonna try to keep learning. All right. It's how I stay focused too, like, with all the craziness. So we're learning about the different games, the ancient sports of America. This is pre-Columbian stuff. Playing football, soccer, and all that. Swift footmanship. Oh, how swift they move. It was so fun to watch them play. In Oklahoma, Mr. Louis L. Meeker writes that girls kick a little ball in the air, counting the number of times it is done without letting the ball or foot touch the ground. You guys hear that? Just like juggling, modern day soccer juggling. Come on now. Professor F.B. Hayden gives on the ball a huasiwato to play ball with the foot. Says here figure 2924, hand and football. A hand and a football. Position of players in women's football game, right? Like a cross. Or they're spread out like that. And it's almost like a square. So the Gross Ventures had a ball as well, ball covered with a bladder and twinned with a network of sinew, diameter 6 inches, described by the collector Dr. A.L. Prober as a football. Do you see everything they've been found and they classified? Yeah, this is football. More of the Eskimo, women's football. The game is played by women, usually during the fall and winter. In winter, fall and winter, the ball used is generally considerably larger than the one used in the men's game. The four players stand opposite of each other. Each pair has a ball which is thrown or driven back and forth across the square. The ball is thrown upon the ground midway between the players so that it shall bound toward the opposite side. She strikes the ball down and back toward the partner with the palm of her open hand. Sometimes the ball is caught on the toe or hand and tossed up and struck or kicked back toward the other side. The person who misses least or has fewer dead balls on her side wins. At times, this game is played only by two women. Continuing says here the Sioux stock again. The Assiniboine, Fort Union, Montana. Dr. Edwin T. Denning says the women play hand and football. The Crows, Crow Agency, Montana. Football, figure 926, this one right here, covered with bladder and twinned with sinew, diameter 6 inches, collected by Dr. W. J. Hoffman, who gives the name as Buse. So again, a hand and football. These are hand and footballs. They kicked these and played with their hands. Crow Reservation, Montana. More balls. Football, similar to the precedings. Football. These specimens collect the right football. So Sims, who describes them as juggling footballs, boop, Teja used in women's game. The objects to keep the ball in the air the longest time by kicking it or by the greatest number of kicks without a miss. Wow. You gotta understand all the skills these people had. Right? Even the women. Even the women. Come on. The women are expert in playing with a large leather ball, which they let fall alternatively on their foot and knee. Again, throwing it up and catching it, and thus keeping it in motion for a length of time without letting it fall to the ground. All right, just like modern professional soccer players do. Prizes are given and they often play high. The ball is often very neat and curiously covered with dyed porcupine quills. Wow. So imagine a competition of who keeps the ball, who juggles the ball the longest. That's not easy, guys. Trust me, I know. I play soccer, and we had those competitions all the time, with our friends and stuff. Winnebago, Wisconsin. Dr. Louis L. Meeker communicates the following description of a game played by the Winnebago girls and some others. They take a light soft ball, such as a stuffed stocking foot, place it on the toe, and standing on one foot, kick it up a few inches. Then as it falls, they kick it back again, so as to send it up as often as possible without letting it fall to the ground, keeping count of the number of times. When it falls to the ground or when the foot is placed on the ground, wow, the ball is passed to another player. The first to count 100 or any number agreed upon wins. And it goes on to say toss ball. In general, the ball throughout the North American continent was propelled with a bat or racket and not touched with the hands. The following exceptional games have been recorded, though. The Abnaki, Quebec, their ball is nothing but an inflated bladder which must always be kept up in the air, and which in reality is upheld a long time by the multitude of hands tossing it back and forth. Hands, just like rugby and football, tossing it back and forth without ceasing. This forms a very pretty sight. Miami, St. Joseph River, Michigan. Charlevoix says after describing lacrosse, the second game is very like this one, but not so dangerous. Two boundaries are marked out, as in the first game, and the players take up all the ground which is between them. The one who begins throws a ball up into the air as perpendicularly as possible, so that he may easily catch it again and throw it toward the goal. All the others have their arms raised, and the one who seizes the ball either goes through the game maneuver, either goes through the same maneuver or throws it to one of his party whom he considers more alert or more skillful than himself. You got to find a quarterback who can hit the pole, For in order to win, the ball must never fall into the hands of the adversaries. All right, no interceptions. All right, make sure you don't throw no interceptions. Women play this game also, but rarely. All right, in this case, it's the men playing this, right? They have 4 or 5 on a side, and the one who lets the ball fall loses. All right, whoever drops the ball, you're out. You're done. This was in St. Joseph River, Michigan. Montañas, Camp Island, Labrador. George Carver says at sunset the Indians amused themselves with playing at ball. The amusement consisted only of tossing the ball at pleasure from one to another, each striving who should get it. But I soon perceived they were very bad catchers. All right, that's what he was saying there. I guess they were bad catchers. Niska, Nass River, British Columbia. Dr. Franz Boas describes the game. Let, a ball game. Four men stand in a square, each pair standing in opposite corners. Throw the ball, one on the other, striking it with their hands. Those who continue longest have won. So imagine that. You got to keep hitting it with your hand, like volleyball a little bit, like kind of like volleyball, hitting it towards each other. Eskimo Central. So the Eskimos doing some kind of hand tossing game. The ball is most frequently used in summer. It is made of seal skin stuffed with moss and neatly trimmed with skin straps. One man throws the ball among the players, whose object it is to keep it always in motion without allowing it to touch the ground. The Kalushan stock in Alaska. Dr. Aro process. Ball is played by children as well as adults. The young people of the village often pass the time in a game, which two sides place themselves opposite each other and threw a thick leather ball back and forth, whereby they exerted themselves never to let it come to the earth. Choctaw, Mississippi. All right. Captain Bernard Roman says the women, all right, Choctaw women also have a game where they take a small stick or something else off the ground after having thrown up a small ball, which they are to catch again. Having picked up the other, they are fond of it, but ashamed to be seen at it. I believe is this propensity to gaming which has given these savages an idea of Mayom and Toom above all other nations of America. Captain Romans describes also a game played with a large ball of woolen rags, which he says the men and women play promiscuously with the hand only with the hand. But talking about the Choctaw, the Natchez in Louisiana, LePage Dupratz wrote, the young people, especially the girls, have hardly any kind of diversion but that of the ball. This consists in tossing the ball from one to the other with the palm of the hand, which they perform with tolerably address, almost like a little bit like volleyball with the palm of the hand. Pujunan stock, the Nisham in California, described the following game. Mr. Stephen Powers, the Posca Hung Tok Compe, tossing the ball is a boys' game. They employ a round wooden ball, a buckeye, or something standing at three bases of corners, and toss it around from one to the other in bases, tossing the ball around in bases. If two of them start to change corners and the third crosses out or hits either of them, he scores one. That sounds almost like baseball, guys. And they count up to a certain number, which completes the game. That's like stealing a base and then trying to hit them with it. Salesian stock, Thompson Indians, British Columbia. The Lower Thompson had a ball game in which the ball was thrown up by one player. The player who caught it ran with it until overtaken by another player. All right? He ran with it, he caught it until somebody can take him down, until somebody can tackle him, who in his turn ran with it until a certain goal was reached. All right? Until they got to the goal line or they get tackled. All right? Suenstock. Yassini born Fort Union, Montana, Dr. Mr. Edwin T. Dennick says the women play hand in football. The Hidatsa, Fort Clark, North Dakota, Maximilian Prince of Wade, referring to a visit of this tribe at Fort Clark on November 27, 1833, speaks of some of the women playing with a leathern ball, which they flung upon the ice, caught it, and then threw it into the air, catching it as it fell. All right, they're playing that in the ice. The Sunian or Sunian stock, the Suni of New Mexico, they had a cotton cloth covered ball, ovate with medium seams, 6 inches in diameter. This was made for the writer by Nick Graham as a copy of a ball used by the clowns or Koyemshi in a game in the plaza at Suni, May 27, 1904, which he describes as follows. I don't know why he's calling them clowns, but it says the clowns produced a large soft ball. And one of them made a mark with his foot across the middle of the plaza from north to south. Sides were chosen, half the clowns ranging themselves on one side and half on the other. One side had the ball, and one of the players on that side would run forward with it to the line and try to strike a player on the other. If he hit him, the latter went to the striker's side, but if he missed, the other side threw the ball. Mrs. Matilda Coxey Stevenson says under Popone, Woolbag or ball. This game is also played by the Koyemshi and the Newekwi fraternity during the intermissions of the dances. All right, check this one out. Figure 929, almost looking like a spherical or like a elliptical, as they were saying. Ball diameter. Sunni Indians, This is in the Brooklyn Institute Museum, supposedly. If you guys want to go check it out, if you're in New York, this was written. I believe this book is old, but it might still be there. Two sides are formed in line, and a man runs out from one side and turns his back to his opponents, one of whom advances and throws a small bag filled with wool. If he succeeds in striking the one who has his back turned, the latter must join the side of one who he strikes. But should the one endeavoring to strike be hit from the other side before he returns to his ranks, he must pass to his opponent's side. All right. It says foot cast ball, a game of casting a heavy stone ball with the top of the foot, the object being to see who can throw it farthest. Observed only in California by Dr. Hudson among the tribes of Two Stock, all right? Casting stones with their foot. Again, many forms of games and sports and competition, all right? The Mariposa Stock says Madera County, they also had a stone ball, which they did the same, a foot putting game. They used their foot, they would throw it with their foot. The Apalachee, Big Creek, north of Groveland, Tulum County, California, also had a stone or the pachuma to lift or cast with the top of the foot. Same thing. And we got ball juggling, a lot of ball juggling. We read that actually. There's actually a lot of information on that. Many tribes did that. The Eskimo and adjacent Algonquin tribes among the Bannock, the Shoshone, the Ute, the Shoshone among the Sunni. There's no indication that it was borrowed from the whites, and further investigation will doubtless result in its discovery in other parts of the continent. All right? So you see, they're trying to say that ball juggling was brought over by Europeans, but this author's letting you know there is no proof that the Europeans brought that ball juggling. This is the true old world, right? So again, these are all stone ball jugglings. You guys can see a lot of info on this. Hot ball, hot potato, hot potato. Dr. J.W. Hudson describes the following game as one for training young men. An old man goes out at night and takes a stone ball he puts in the fire and it heats very hot. He then removes the ball from the fire and throws it as far as he can with wisps of straw. A number of youth are lined up on the alert, heads down to locate where the ball strikes, and at the moment it falls, they run and try to get it. He who finds it first gets the first honor, but he who brings it to the camp gets the stakes, all right? Yeah, so you might be able to find it first, but it's hot. Are you able to bring it all the way? All right, hot potato, hot potato. Crazy games, right? So hot ball among all these other tribes as well. And then it goes on right there. So let me see. We've been here an hour and 18, 17 minutes. That's my number. We're going to end it here. We got a lot more information, more parts coming. Yeah, it gets really deep when it comes to the sports of the American Indians because it was actually pretty big in the culture. It was pretty big, right? More than they told us, more than they wanted us to know, you know, more than they wanted us to know for sure. So hold on, guys. Let me. I hope you guys enjoyed today's part or part seven, the reading. As you guys can see, we can keep going. They have so many references. There's other books as well. Personal accounts. You'd have to go through all the little personal accounts of all these so-called explorers, colonists, and they're all telling you the same thing. They're all telling you the very same thing. All right, sports was big. Sports was very big, and I appreciate everybody that tuned in. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. Glad you guys enjoyed this series. Make sure to check out all the parts. All right, the playlists are created, and don't worry, don't mention the Chasers playlist is now public. For some reason, it was private, guys. Yeah, American football is an indigenous game. Soccer is an indigenous game. Lacrosse, many sports, many games are from America. Of course, it all makes sense when you know this is the true old world. Agriculture, the oldest land, right? Louis Agassiz, the oldest land, the oldest water, the oldest fossils, mammals, all that, right? The food, the crops, we got corn. There's a lot of things here first. began here. Sports is definitely like one of the contributions that American indigenous people gave to the world is definitely sports. So you're welcome. You're welcome. And on behalf of everybody, all the indigenous people of the world, I say you're welcome. I'm sorry, all the indigenous Americans. I say you're welcome. Yes. So thank you for tuning in. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Shabbat Shalom. Have a blessed rest of your Shabbat, your Saturday. Thanks once again. Wow, wow.
Robert Dre, trust me, bye.
Wow.